Canada, and welcome to everyone. Thank you for joining us today for this information session focused on the call for participation for a distributed storage compute grid. If you require French interpretation, please select your preferred language channel from the Zoom settings bar, and closed captioning is also available. This session is being recorded and will be accessible on the Alliance's website next week. Throughout this presentation, we encourage you to engage with us while using the Q&A feature instead of the chat feature. If you have any questions, simply type them into the Q&A and we will address them after this brief presentation. If we receive more questions than we have time to answer during this live session, we will compile responses to all unanswered questions and add them to the FAQ section on the page for this project on our website. Before we dive into the details of the call for participation, let's take a moment to review our code of conduct and welcome attendees from across Canada. So we have a code of conduct that guides our gathering today. The Alliance seeks to provide a welcoming, engaging, and safe community for everyone. Discriminatory language is not appropriate in any venue or platform. And the Alliance does not tolerate harassment in any form. Harassment is understood as any behavior that threatens or another person or group or produces an unsafe environment. Thank you for being here to listen and learn together. My name is Dawn Wood. I'm the Director of Program Management and Administration at the Digital Research Alliance of Canada, or the Alliance. I'll be one of the Alliance staff speaking today. And as I address you today, I do so from the unceded traditional territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh nations. I invite you to join me in respectfully acknowledging the First Nations, Inuit, and Métis lands we all work and live on. May I have the next slide, Nick? Also wanted to mention this information session is recording in progress. This information session is focused exclusively on the call for participation. Broader technical and architectural questions will be addressed in a separate session as those discussions are still in progress. A reminder to please use the Q&A panel at the bottom of your Zoom window for your questions rather than the chat. If we're unable to answer all questions during the session, we'll follow up afterward. So please allow me to introduce some of the additional Alliance team members who will be speaking in today's presentation. We have Felipe Perez-Yodstov, Director, Strategic Development and Initiatives, Jared Baker, Lead Cloud Architect, Patrick Mann, Director of Operations, and Richard Martin, Procurement Specialist. So we'll shift our focus to the agenda for today's webinar. We will touch on the background and context for the call, an overview of the distributed storage and compute grid pilot, some details of the call for participation, a few points about the timelines and submission, and then we'll open the floor for Q&A. So I believe next, Felipe will provide some background and context. So over to you, Felipe.
Thank you, Dawn. Good morning, good afternoon, everybody. It's really a pleasure to be here surrounded by colleagues across the country who are interested in this new initiative that we're aiming to launch as soon as possible, and with the support of everybody here in the room. Just a little bit of background around the distributed storage and compute grid and why it is called a pilot. This is part of the vision that we presented to our funder, ICED, Innovation, Science and Economic Development, as part of our mandate renewal. In April, we received funding for the next 5 years, and part of the work that we were aiming to do is really launching a new national service that would provide active data management and other capabilities to Canadian researchers. Oh, there's a bit of noise coming. I don't know where it is. If I may just ask friends here to mute themselves just for a second, please. Um, we made the case as well to the federal government as part of the Canadian Sovereign AI Compute Strategy that this service would really support Canadian researchers in securing Canadian data, ensuring that it's available for reuse, whether it's for AI or for other research purposes. And in fact, as part of the $85 million that we received for the near-term investment of the Canadian Sovereign AI Compute Strategy, ICET was very supportive of this distributed storage and compute grid. We are launching it as a pilot project because there's still a lot of unknowns, and we hope to work with you to go through that and develop a fully mature service delivery. Some of the things that we're trying to do is leverage some of the strengths that we have. We have a very robust higher education ecosystem. We have great connectivity provided by Canary across the country, bringing all of these universities together. And we know that researchers have long told us that they need some solutions for their storage and that universities are really struggling in providing that, whether it's through commercial clouds or the national services that exist today. Next slide, please. If you've read the call for participation, we described four use cases. And of course, these are not the only use cases that we could potentially envision for this new service. But at the basis, the Canadian Research Data Platform, which is this new initiative that we're going to be launching in early October, would use distributed storage that we're trying to advance here as that foundational infrastructure for the services. This infrastructure will also serve as the infrastructure for the Federated Research Data Repository, which is the national repository that we actively support, as well as any other preservation services. As part of the Canadian Research Data Platform, we have also this pilot project to be launched in early October called the National Data Spaces. Those data spaces, which are research domain areas, would be also using this distributed storage. And of course, we can't forget the plethora of research platforms and portals that are already using national infrastructure, and they could really leverage the distributed storage and compute grid. Next slide, please. So some of the things that we're trying to achieve here is really demonstrate the real world operation of this distributed new service across different institutions, across different compositions of clusters. We really want to demonstrate how we can drive a lot of this through policy. And we can also identify how a model where Alliance has a central role in the service delivery could work and improve performance. Now, we really want to have this evidence so that when we go back to our funder for more sustainable long-term funding, we have this evidence to back up future investments. Next slide, please. You may be wondering, well, why would I want to participate? Well, there are various advantages. Among them is really participate in the development of the national service, really actively be involved and providing feedback to the Alliance and us as a community as a whole, what works, what should be modified. Immediately, as soon as the infrastructure will be working, we would be supporting some of the long-term issues that we've heard from the research community, and that is storage capacity. And of course, we are earmarking up to 30% for your researchers' storage with a preferential access for up to 30%. And finally, we are really building the future of the Canadian DRI ecosystem, and we wish that you can participate with us. Next slide, please. We are limiting the eligibility to those entities that we are allowed to fund as part of our contribution agreement with the federal government, and that is limited to universities, colleges, research hospitals, not-for-profit research organizations, or that have the capacity to carry on research, and of course, then DRI supporting institutions. Now, these are the eligibility in terms of the legal entity, but there are also other requirements in terms of having the capacity for storing and providing the space for that infrastructure. And with that, I think I will pass it to Patrick or Jared.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thanks, Felipe. Yeah, my name's Jared. I'm the lead cloud architect here. I've been like the lead um, on the technical side of things. So I'm going to walk you through the overview of we call it the DSCG pilot, the distributed storage and compute grid. What we're looking for here is co-location partners to house deployments of the distributed storage and compute grid. These sites will need to be connected regionally through the NRENs and nationally through Canary. We expect one of the main use cases is to be moving a considerable amount of data between the different clusters, so that connectivity is critical for us. We have two deployment options or architectures outlined here. We've got a multi-site stretched cluster consisting of 3 sites, each with 2 racks, which aims to offer the highest redundancy and service availability. We also have a more traditional single site cluster, which are 4 or more racks with redundancy and fault tolerance at the site level. The DSCG service will need to be managed holistically and at a few different layers. A grid operations team will be formed. The role of the co-location provider will be minimal and mostly at the physical layer. Next slide, please. All right, technical requirements. I'll just read them off here, but space and cooling, like I said, two racks for a stretched cluster, 4+ racks for a single cluster, up to about 800 kilograms per rack for the weight limit. We're estimating around 24 kilowatts per rack, and the servers are slated to use air cooling, so we're looking for adequate air cooling from the data center provider. The research and commercial network at least 10 gigabits to Canary, scalable up to 100 gigabits with less than 10 milliseconds round trip time for a stretched cluster, and about 1 gigabit or greater for the commercial internet. For IP connectivity and security, we're looking for ideally a /27 of IPv4, and ideally somebody who is IPv6 capable. Standard firewalling to help protect the environment and be able to provide some usage and environmental telemetry to our Alliance Grid Ops team. And on-site operations, 5x8 is fine, ideally 24x7, and staff on site for the racking and stacking of equipment and to be able to respond to support requests coming in from the Alliance Grid Ops team for remote hands and eyes service, replacing commonly failed parts and things like that. And I just encourage you to look at a full list of the technical requirements in the CFP section 3.2. All right, next slide, please. So the roles and commitments, the Alliance is going to, we will pay for all co-location costs. We're going to procure, own, and insure and maintain the warranties on all the hardware. So we'll be doing, if there's any kind of warranty requests, we'll be handling that with the appropriate vendor to get replacement parts. We'll be managing essential operations for monitoring and alerting and security. And we will coordinate any kind of networking installation or concerns or troubleshooting with Canary. We're looking for the host sites to obviously meet our technical hosting requirements outlined in the CFP, and also help us coordinating with delivery and installation, and participate in pilot reviews, and collaborate with the Alliance and other hosting sites to ensure the success of the pilot. Next slide, please. Thank you. The goal of the host site selection is to find a set of suitable providers across Canada to form a national grid of clusters, including both stretched and traditional architectures. Depending on the responses of the community, we aim to find a home for 2 to 3 stretched clusters and 2 to 3 traditional clusters. We will need to review the responses of interested providers and assess for technical and operational readiness, and strategically map out sites for geographic and network diversity. Cost of co-location also needs to be considered to fit within the operational budget as well. Next slide, please. Okay, the host sites will be responsible for confirming readiness of the site, for receiving equipment, may be responsible for receiving equipment, inventorying, unpacking, racking, and connecting. We will also need help establishing upstream network connectivity and out-of-band access so our grid operations team can begin provisioning of the cluster. All right, next slide, please. All right, I think that's done with the technical overview there. Look forward to the Q&A section. I'm sure there'll be lots of questions. I'll pass it back to, I believe, Dawn now for the
Thanks.
costs.
Thanks. Yeah, in terms of eligible costs include co-location fees, power, cooling, cross connects, and reasonable one-time installation. Ineligible costs are facility upgrades, staffing that are beyond remote hands, and optional tape services. In terms of the timeline, the next important upcoming date is the submission deadline, which is October 7th. And we aim to send a notice to selected participants in November. The Alliance plans to have equipment delivered by March 31st, 2026, with installation and configuration in April through to September 2026, going live in October 2026, and a pilot review July 30th, 2027. So in terms of submission, as just mentioned, responses must be received by October 7th by email to the funding subventions at alliancecanada.ca email address. As outlined in the call for participation, a complete submission package will have Appendix 1, Appendix 2, your institution's co-location agreement template if you have one, and an official letter of certification signed by an authorized signatory and technical lead. The Alliance website has a page dedicated to this call for participation, and on that page you can find the copy of the call for participation, the response form to submit your response, a cost schedule form to submit as well, FAQ, which will be updated regularly and we will soon be posting on the webpage, and the link should be there. So I think that covers our brief presentation, and we'll be moving to the live Q&A, which will be moderated by Jared and Patrick. So Jared and Patrick, I'll leave it to you.
Thanks, Dawn. Yeah, I see we've got some questions in the chat, and they're slowly being moved over here to the Q&A. Thanks for that, Yolanda. Is there an estimation on BTUs per rack? It's a good question. When we were speccing out the load in the racks, there was BTU requirements in there. I don't have them off the top of my head, and I did not put them in the CFP. All I can say is that I can get back to you on that specific answer on what we're expecting there.
And Jared, just roughly, I mean, 24 kilowatts is what we came up with. And yeah, I see Paul has noted that's about 80,000 BTUs per hour. So gives, yeah, there are other details as you noted, but that should gives you a good idea.
Yeah, and I would encourage, participants responding to this, like if you have specific requirements at the data center level for like air cooling. I know some of the providers might require like a rear door heat exchanger. If that's something that, our equipment would need to contain, please let us know in your response.
I see, Jared, we're getting asked then about dual 12 kilowatts or dual 24 kilowatts. So I think it's dual 24 kilowatts per rack.
Yeah, I mean, we expected, 2 PDUs per rack, each server going to be equipped with dual power supply just for high availability. It's not that we would necessarily need them. We just want to build in some tolerance there for loss of power, like perhaps a PDU failure. As unlikely as that is, it's just good practice to have that in a rack, we think.
And Jared, the next question from Robert at U Calgary, is the IP range part of the institution or Canary IP range? I don't think we have a great preference there, but they have to supply us with something. Yeah.
Right. I mean, I guess that goes down to, whose IP ranges are we expecting to use? Would it be Canaries or would it be the colocation providers? I think we're flexible as long as, for example, if we were getting IP ranges from Canary, there's obviously a bit of routing involved there that would need to be considered in the architecture. But we could work with that. We could work with the institution to route that IP addressing to the cluster.
Let's see. I see. Let's see. 24-hour specific cooling in terms of rack mounts. How many are required per data center? I'm not quite sure. Pascal. Yeah. We need 2 racks in one of the 3-site clusters. Sorry,
Yeah,
2
I'm
racks
wondering
per
if it's a
site.
question pertaining to the amount of rack units being utilized in a rack. I'm not sure. We are leaving some space for expansion. You can see it actually in the technical details of the CFP. If you scroll down, we actually provide some estimates of what the rack layout might look like. I don't know if that's what you were looking for. Pascal, maybe you can provide some clarity on that question.
Actually, yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
If we have to install something in our data center, we have to think about the space and see if we can provide it.
Yeah,
Yes,
absolutely. So we're looking at if you were applying to host a traditional architecture, we're looking at 4 racks.
Okay.
If it's larger, that's fine. It's going to be dependent on sort of the makeup of the respondents, but we're currently targeting the traditional architecture as being 4 racks. If you're going to be applying to host a stretched cluster, each site only needs to have space for 2 racks.
Okay, so 2 racks for expansion. Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Jared, let's see, 208 volts. Yeah. We've got some folks who have raised their hands, but let's see. Firewalls for the system. Do we provide them, or does the institution provide it?
Yep. Great question. I think we were hoping on the institution providing just some basic firewalling within our environment, within our architecture. There is security built into there. So I think our requirements on the firewalling side of things would be pretty light. We're anticipating having, within that cluster, a few globally reachable services available. Could be an S3 endpoint, could be researchers running applications which require access on TCP 443, things like that. We don't expect anything exotic allowed into the environment there.
So the reason why
Robert,
I asked was if we're using Canary IP spaces, then I'm not sure if we can route those through our internal firewalls. If we have IP spaces from the institutions, then they could go through the institution's firewalls. So that choice kind of determines where the firewalls go.
Yeah, good to call that out, Robert. Like I said earlier, didn't really envision using Canary's IP space. We've not really had any discussions with them in regards to that. We were always looking for the colocation provider to give us a slice of IPv4 and route it that way. And that way we can work closely with you on that.
Florent, you got your hand up?
Patrick, yeah, follow up with what you just mentioned. Yeah, Canary IP space, an issue you'll have is your document requires internet access. And as far as I know, Canary is not an internet provider and will unlikely allow you to announce their prefix on the internet. So it's got to be something else. You mentioned firewall. My basic question is, who's responsible for the cybersecurity of the system? Because you know, you want to have local IANs for public connection and reset servers. But if the local site also provide firewalls, its involvement in the project becomes higher. So I'm not sure who's going to be responsible for the cybersecurity of the system. Let's say a scan goes on and there's some vulnerability are detected within your system. Who's responsible for that? I'm assuming it's Alliance because you're operating the system, but just want to confirm.
Yeah, the Alliance would be responsible for that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So basically you would want to have your own firewall and get access to your own log and to be able to change the rules if something comes up and not be dependent on a local site.
Yes, I think the answer is pretty much yes on that one, Florent. And yeah, good point. It's part of the pilot, I think, is that we're going to start banging our head against some of these issues. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Robert?
So in the distributed model or multi-site stretched model, what is going to be in the two racks? So the power is 24 kilowatts per rack. If it's storage, then that seems to be quite a bit. So what exactly are you envisioning to put in the two racks for a distributed site?
Yeah, I can
Jared,
answer.
maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, I can answer that. Yeah, Robert. In the technical details of the CFP, you can see an estimated rack layout diagram for both models, traditional and stretched. They're not that different from each other. In the stretch model, it's two racks per site, and in those racks we have a combination of quite a bit of storage nodes in there. Also, a handful of compute nodes. Half of them are just going to be, high core count CPU compute nodes. The other half's going to hopefully be equipped with, 2 GPUs per server. I think I would have to double check the architecture, but I think there would be 3 GPU nodes per rack, each GPU node having 2 GPUs. These are not by any means the heavy duty wattage GPU nodes that do high precision and large language model training at scale. But we do want to cover use cases of people running inference and showcasing what they've done with the models and things like that, and running services that are leveraging models locally. In addition to that, servers powering the control plane for the technology stack, Kubernetes, masters, Ceph nodes running the different Ceph services, load balancers, top of rack switches, management switches, and things like that. So that's the anatomy of a rack, in both cases, stretched and non-stretched.
And do you
Jared, I see
provide
a
also
couple
the UPS?
Sorry, didn't catch that.
Do you provide also the UPS for the rack mount?
No, we're hoping that you provide the UPS.
Okay, that's the answer that I'm looking for. So UPS is on us. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
A couple of questions. Let's see. Wade asked, what type of compute would each site be hosting? I think you just answered that one. Jared, Ken, should the sites provide the racks? If so, what dimensions? I think, Jared, we left that one pretty open because some sites have specific rack providers or rack requirements. but we can provide them too. So we would have to work with the site as to which racks. And I think they're pretty standard racks. We're not thinking anything special.
Yeah.
Is there a
What kind
preference?
of, sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
So
Yeah,
do
go
you,
ahead.
what kind of storage are you using?
Sorry, can you say again?
What kind of storage will be used?
Yeah, so looking at like off-the-shelf enterprise storage nodes, we're going to layer on open source technologies like Ceph. It works really well for other research institutes and parts of the distributed workforce. We've got a lot of in-house expertise and across the distributed workforce as well. We've made some pretty informed architecture decisions to kind of land on Ceph to offer object storage and block storage. And, we're targeting like a sort of a medium performance tier there. We've got the big HPC clusters with all flash, all NVMe for really high performance purposes. So this is kind of going to be a little bit in the middle here. Yeah.
All right, thank you.
And Jared, I see there's is there a preference from the Alliance point of view for 3 sites with 2 racks each, or one single site providing the whole infrastructure? I think we are aiming for across Canada grid, so we're expecting that there would be, kind of nice would be, say, 3 site clusters, one in the west, one in the middle, one in the east, and one full cluster, traditional cluster, essentially as kind of backup thing, depending on the availability of sites. So we haven't yet defined, this is this call for participation to see what we, how many sites are there, how many sites are interested, and what would be required in these 3 site clusters. And as noted, these clusters do have to be reasonably close together geographically for latency issues. So thanks, Paul. Yeah, just clearing that one up. Robert, you had your hand again?
Yeah, so just to clarify what you said, you want the 3 sites to be geographically close, but yet you want them in different provinces?
No, we would have multiple 3 site clusters. We're
Gotcha.
thinking of, one to say one in the west, one in the middle, one in the east. And I think earlier on, what we're focusing on here is reliability. So with a 3 site cluster, we can lose a site and the system still runs perfectly happily. But for extreme levels of reliability, we might want to replicate data between such clusters. And then, as we indicated in the call, if there are tape backup facilities available, well, some of our researchers really get seriously extreme. The data can be critical, and yeah, so we might even get to that point of view. But I think probably tape backups are more for cold data, old data that we don't need to keep online. Pascal, who will be managing and patching these servers? That's the grid operations team. Right. Tom, yeah, you asked if the sites would prefer to provide racks. Yeah, the Alliance would, yes, we can, I think we can provide minimum rack size. The next step in this would be trying to get an RFP for the equipment itself. And of course, I think everybody's well aware that our big issue with the whole T85 project is the timeline. So we are indeed supposed to get the equipment at least delivered by March 31st. Yeah, Jared, Tom also asked any specific requirements for physical security at these sites and any compliance requirements.
Well, that's a great question. I actually think that the details of that may vary on type of data which might actually be permitted to be stored in some of the clusters. So for example, if you're a data center provider that perhaps already stores sensitive information and have the checks and balances in place to be certified to do so, that ultimately could also allow us to unlock that potential as well. Because that is one of the use cases, is to be able to store some form of sensitive data, to be defined as to what that actually would be. If you're, if you're a little bit light on physical security implementations, it could still be feasible for us to host there, but we might have some stipulations or some limitations on the level of data in which gets stored in that particular cluster.
Yeah, and I think, Jared, it's probably fair just to note that this is the pilot. The pilot itself will probably not store sensitive data, and we're not too worried. However, we are expecting to build this out, and I think it's reasonable to think that at some point in the future we would have a 3-site cluster, which would be more aimed at sensitive data. But that would be something, I think, in the future after we figure out if we can technically do some of this. And Tarek, you asked if there'd be an SLA. Yes, I think we are aiming for an SLA at this point. Yeah, I think for the pilot, it may not be that strict, but certainly for production stuff, it would be.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, let's see. Jonathan, can a server rack depth dimension be provided? Yeah, I think we could do that, Jared. So, yeah. Yeah. Any other questions?
I think there was one by
Did I miss one?
David. Hi, David. I don't think we answered your question about Orion versus Canary. So David was asking, is 10G to Orion versus Canary suitable? That's a good question. I don't. I mean,
Yeah,
ultimately, like when it comes to data traversing the country, we want to be able to leverage Canary. If Orion is the on-ramp to Canary from within that region, then that's great.
Yeah, and Jared, I think we assumed we would be working with the regional networks, with the RANs, in that any 3-site cluster would almost certainly be within the one region's local network. But between clusters, of course, we would need Canary connections. And as Jared says, that would be the on-ramp. So I think it's pretty clear that we would have to work with one of the regional networks like Orion, but BCNet, Cybera, in gluing together 3 sites. And I think it's fair to say, Jared, that the inter-site connectivity in a 3-site network needs to be pretty good. There sitting is the latency issues and the bandwidth issues that something like Ceph will require for synchronization, and it's keeping what am I thinking of? Slicing and erasure coding capabilities.
Yeah, that's right. And for for client traffic ingress and egress from a cluster, or also known as north-south, 10 gigabit is perfectly fine there. It'd be nice if that's dedicated though, because as I mentioned earlier, there could be considerable data being moved in and out by clients, but also through replication from other clusters as well. So I'd be a bit wary about sharing that 10 gig connection.
Yeah, Tom is, yes, asked the same question. I think, Tom, yeah, yes. So inter-site would be probably the RAN, and then intra-site grid connections would be over Canary. And then Jonathan, are there any fire suppression requirements? I think it's pretty minimal. We are really trying to build in the reliability of these systems with the 3 sites. So losing a site is shouldn't be a huge issue as long as we can bring it back reasonably quickly. So I don't think there are any particular fire suppression requirements.
How
let's
about
see.
the traffic? We are passing through the risk.
Yep.
Okay, so it's feasible.
Yeah. And Wade, would the cost be covered by the Alliance? Yes, this is 100% funded
Okay.
through the and part of this call for participation is that we'd like to see what we can actually build within the available budget.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah, Pascal, you asked about co-location costs. Well, yeah, that's the call for participation. We want to see what we get out of this. And if multiple organizations submit proposals, well, our approach we're planning is that we will set up a few scenarios of a mix of 3-site clusters and the traditional cluster, and we will then see what the costs are, see what our budget is, and we will probably make a recommendation then to senior leadership for one of those. But yeah, in the end, we'll also certainly be looking at costs and seeing what we can fit. But primarily, we need those 3-site clusters. So what's the available budget? Felipe, are you able to share some of the budget stuff?
For the operations or for the capital expenses?
I guess both when it comes down to it.
Yeah, I think we can share. We are expecting to invest a little bit over $16 million in capital infrastructure, capital expenses. And in terms of recurring operational expenses, just 1 second here. Apologies. We have around 1.5 million per year.
And that is 2 more years after the first year, so 3 years in total, right?
Well, so we have as part of this investment, we have a contribution agreement with ISET until March 2028. So depending when the infrastructure is fully operational, we have between then until March 2028.
Yeah. Thanks, Felipe. Is the intention for researchers to interact with Kubernetes directly from Ryan or application service? I think both. There is that Canadian research data project, which would be higher level stuff. But also, if a researcher with something like an RPP, a research platform or portal, wants direct access through something like S3, then that's fine too. So Ryan, yeah, both. Wade, can some of the costs include augmenting cooling capacity and power? Certainly colo costs would include what you need to provide cooling and power to those racks.
Hey, Patrick, what about the, Tom's got a question about humidity and ambient input temperatures. I don't think we answered that, did we?
I guess not, but do we have any particular, I mean, it's reasonably standard off-the-shelf stuff that we're talking about.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, we might have to get back to you on that one, because that would probably be an important metric in an SLA about what kind of cooling is provided. We just say is adequate cooling. I guess maybe the details need to be sorted out on that.
Right. Any more questions? Oh, Felipe, you're going to ask a question?
I was going to ask a question, not to you and Jared. I was actually going to ask a question to our attendees, and just to me, it's such an exciting opportunity participate in this new service. So I was wondering maybe if people could share their interest behind participating in this pilot, because I think we want to start learning about how to engage better some of this of our partners, and the fact that you're here, I think to me it speaks a lot. So maybe just briefly, if somebody would like to share their interest and reason of why they would like to participate.
Okay, we got Subhayan. Got your hand up there?
Yes. So I am the applied research chair in Red Deer Polytechnic, post-secondary institution here in Alberta, for AI and machine learning. And I just recently moved from US. I was in Silicon Valley for 10 years, worked through startups and stuff. My motivation has always been to make Canada self-sufficient on data and AI capabilities. And my motivation of doing this is we are actually working on setting up a data center at Red Deer Polytechnic, through other initiatives and so on. We want to make our students capable of doing AI research hands-on. Not only from the hardware standpoint, but also from the software development standpoint, so that they can not only build models on their laptops, they can actually deploy and see how those models are in action. So this is a great opportunity, and I like the fact that you are doing multiple clusters and there will be more than one clusters, because then there is not a single point of failure, and I think that will induce collaboration and a lot more participation. So that's my motivation. But this is an amazing opportunity. Thank you so much.
Thank you for sharing, Subhayan.
Yeah, thanks, Subhayan, and yeah, welcome to Canada, of course. But yeah, I agree, and I think one thing that I have noticed, I'm been around for a while, is that the community colleges and such are really pushing into the AI applications. So I think we're very much open to your end of things, joining the project. I see SAIT and BCIT, for instance, all developing those kinds of courses. Let's see. Tom asks, for a single site cluster, the document says 4+ cabinets. Yeah, a stretch cluster is 3 sites of 2, but a single site you need to put. Oh, I see. Are you thinking, Tom, that naively you might go 3 times 2 is 6?
Yeah, I also don't understand what you mean by plus. Like, what is 4+? Is that 5? Is that 6? Or is that always going to be 4?
I can answer that.
Yeah, go for it, Jared. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean,
Good question.
We've designed it to be 4 racks, understanding that, again, depending on the types of response we get nationally, we have a fixed budget, and each cluster costs roughly X amount. And so they become sort of like financial building blocks or cluster building blocks. So depending on the type of response, it's possible that some sites could be more than 4 racks. We would obviously have to kind of work with you in that, and also assess the overall response. I guess what I'm trying to say here is, like, we're not we're not fixed to just 4 racks. If a single cluster needs to be bigger, like the cluster has the flexibility to scale out horizontally to be larger in that way.
So yeah, four definitely.
Yeah.
Might in
But
the
do you-
future need some more.
But
4 is good enough.
But would you rank a submission where there's ability to scale higher than one that's limited to 4?
That's a good question, Jared. I think for the pilot, probably not. That might be more in the future.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think also what maybe we're looking at too is all the future. So this is part of, an $85 million rapid AI deployment. Future funding opportunities could have us, depending on the success of the pilot, expanding upon this. And wouldn't it be great to, take existing sites and grow them if it made sense technically? More clusters is more to manage. At some point, there's a point of diminishing returns in terms of like operational overhead. You may want to grow a cluster instead of adding another cluster.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, go ahead, Tom.
Sorry, I just have a question about the operating budget. I believe it was mentioned it's like 1.5 million per total for 3 years, or is it 1.5 million per each of the 3 clusters?
It's thank you for the question. It's 1.59 million per year.
Okay.
Sergey?
Yeah, I
Hand up?
just want to give a quick thanks. To answer to Philippe's question, in terms of for us, Pascal, you can speak if you're there as well on behalf of Concordia. So we have our own little clusters running Slurm and everything in different places, and we like people try to use Google Cloud or whatever, or all this external platforms and stuff like that. So we wanted it seems like a very needed initiative to allow our researchers, our students to use the storage they need for the models, and it just falls into place. It makes a lot of sense because we keep buying our own storage and stuff like that, and people buy their unique devices, and we have to manage all that as well. Of course, we have a centralized storage in terms of maybe NetApp, or different departments have different solutions. So this kind of makes sense to have them this approach, and then they can move their jobs around however they see. So that's why we're all here. So I told my team, and when Pascal shared that information with his team and us to basically, hey, there's this thing, and we constantly follow Alliance Canada workshops on different things and try to sort of align some of our speed cluster operations with alliances as well. So it sort of made sense, and we'd be really I'd really like to see this project balloon and become really the Canadian version of that. All our institutions can basically just benefit of this distributed storage and how we can work and integrate with this. So I hope I presented my view on this. I don't know if Pascal has anything to say, but just to answer Philippe's question, because it's a valid question as well. Why we're all here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Sergey. Yes, and we're keeping it relatively simple for the pilot here, but we can really think of, for instance, contributed hardware, that kind of thing in the future, well, yeah, we can see what we're doing on the Canadian lines. Thanks. Let's see, Andrew. Darcy, if you want to scale out the Canary Connection, yes, this is 100% funded. So we would fund things like Canary Connection and requirements for that. And Andrew, would a whole cluster or a partial cluster? I think it would be a whole cluster, especially in the 3-site end. Well, we need each site to have sufficient resources.
Well, I think Patrick, he's alluding to they may be interested in hosting both should 2 other partners be found to form a stretched cluster, if I understand it correctly. But I think, you know, both applications would be, or both interests would be valid, right? An institution is willing to be a whole cluster, that's great. And they're also willing to be a partial cluster in a stretched model. That's also great. We know you're open to collaborating with 2 other sites and forming a stretched cluster. Andrew,
Yeah,
I hope I interpreted your question correctly.
Thanks, Jared. Yeah, I had misinterpreted that. I think that Andrew said that's correct. So,
Great.
yeah, okay, we will consider both. Oh, and Ryan asked about user support. Yeah, that's going to be part of the pilot to see how we actually do that. Yeah, I think we would prefer, of course, to use the Alliance Help Desk and Federation staff, but we have to contribute something to that because, of course, we'll be supporting stuff. But the Canadian Research Data Platform does have significant operational funding for things like support of whoever is using that platform. So that'll kind of be built into the into that maybe next level of things. Who else do we have? Tom, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, I was just going to comment about our interest. So at BCNet, I am interested in submitting. At least presently, I need to talk to some more of my colleagues. But I see it as a way for us to accomplish 2 things: is that BCNet regionally, we need to do some internal improvements to our network, and this might give us this more scale, more buying power. So, and drive down the overall cost. That's actually why I'd like to see if that's really, was it 4+, is it 5, is that 6? Because it helps when negotiating for power commitments as well. Get a better unit price.
No, great comment. And I think we'd be kind of open there as to how we build this thing. And I suppose there's nothing much to stop us going to 4 sites in a cluster. So yeah, no, that's great. And we haven't really started to talk to, for instance, you guys in BCNet, but we absolutely should.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll need to, of course. Yeah. So we can follow up.
Patrick, Grigory had his hand up a couple of times. So
Oh, Grigory, are you there?
No, yes.
Oh, you're there.
So there were a couple of questions that I'd like to understand better. The support and network security was mentioned, and the answer was it is still a pilot. So which direction you envision after the pilot succeed, to involve more site staff for support and whatnot, or to keep it or develop it as centralized Alliance service provided by Alliance Central down the road? What is the direction that you guys would think it is best?
Right. I think that the short answer is, well, that's what the pilot's going to inform and tell us where to, what's happening. Yeah, I think it'd be tough to make a straight recommendation right now until we see what we can do and how performance is, how reliability is, that end of things. But I certainly think of a national grid with a grid operations team that's managing the whole works. Yeah, Felipe, you had your hand up. Did you have something to comment there?
It's just following on what you just mentioned, Patrick and Grigory, we definitely don't have an answer yet, but we do have some principles and considerations that I don't want them to sound just flowery descriptions, but I think the strength of Canada is in the people, right? And so we recognize the skill set across the country. So what's the best model which leverages that skill set? I think that's what we're going to try to do.
One further question there from Christy. Would you be looking for joint submissions or do the matchmaking ourselves? We are in fact open to joint submissions. That question came up. Originally, we were thinking that this would be very much a completely alliance project, but the way that technical requirements have come out with these stretched clusters that need to be reasonably geographically located, I think we are open to submissions from a set of institutions. Of course, from our point of view, that's less work for us if you guys can get together and set that up. So yes, we are okay with a joint submission. Any other hands? Let's see. Yeah, I think, well, looks like we're just about done then. Little ahead of time. We gave ourselves a bit more time to answer questions, but did we miss anybody?
Did we answer the two from Tom? He asked about SOC 2. I think that was in the
he did.
In the context of data center security, maybe targeting a specific security model.
Yeah, something like that, I think is the answer. Yeah, I think kind of due to the timelines, I think I have to say that we have not been quite as diligent in working with the National Security Council on some of these details, and we're busily trying to find time to sit down with them. So part of the pilot.
Okay.
Yeah, and then the question about the back-end storage network, I think we've answered that one. So. Yeah, okay. No more questions. Dawn, anything more we have to do from your end of things?
Thanks, Patrick. No, just a reminder, maybe I'll just repeat some comments that I made earlier for people that didn't get here at the outset, that we are recording the session. The recording will appear on our website likely next week. And if there were any questions we didn't get to, maybe you could send them our way. It seems like we have, and we will be updating the FAQ as questions come in, so that if you check it regularly, you will see questions that have been coming in and answers to those questions as well. I think that's everything.
Yeah, thanks, Dawn. And I see one question did come out from Sergey again. Jared, do you want to have a look at, you're our more Ceph guy. Deprecation nodes? Yeah.
No, I was just quickly looking at that, and it was just an acknowledgement of CephFS being deprecated at a certain Kubernetes version. We're actually not looking at CephFS in this deployment model. CephFS has considerably different performance characteristics, which we are not engineering for today. So we actually
not for part of the pilot, right?
Not for part of the pilot. We didn't think we were going to be running CephFS, just object storage and volume storage. If there was a need for higher performance storage inside of Kubernetes, we would hope that you would deploy an application using local dir and leveraging the local disks of the compute nodes, which will be NVMe.
Okay, I see.
Yeah.
And no NFS or anything of that type?
No.
Oh, okay.
No. At least not on the pilot. Like things will, we'll continue to iterate on what this is going to look like and assess use cases and add features as it makes sense, of course. Yeah.
Okay, sorry, thank you. Just last minute question came up from one of my team members, so I decided to pass it along. Thank you.
Yeah, and I think like other parts of the Alliance offerings could accommodate that requirement right now. Arbutus, for example, offers you know, they run CephFS and can provision NFS shares. So if you were to use a Kubernetes cluster on the Arbutus cloud, and you needed that functionality of NFS in Kubernetes, you would go to Arbutus for that particular functionality.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks everyone, and thanks Dawn for closing remarks there. And I guess we're looking forward to being overwhelmed by applications. That would give us a lot of flexibility. So that'd be great. So thanks everybody. I think that's it.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.